Okay, perfect. So welcome to this short session about the interaction between Power BI and Power Automate. So my name is Isabelle Van Campenhoudt, and I'm from Brussels. I'm a data platform MVP from a lot of years now, and I've been working on the Microsoft data platform since 1999, which is a long time ago, actually. So the agenda of today, it will be a quick tour. So we will go through Power Automate 101 because I guess that you are already aware of the possibility of Power Automate. And then we will go through the different interaction that you can have between Power Automate and the Power BI platform. So let's move forward. First of all, of course, we can have an overview of the different actors that we can find in the Power Platform. So there is the Power Apps, the low-code application development, where you can create your form. There is the Power BI part. So Power BI is, of course, the analytics part, which allows you to do mashup from data and to create data model that you can then present in stunning reports and share into the cloud thanks to the Power BI service. You have the Power Automate, which is a workflow automation platform, and you have the last kit on the block, which is the Power Virtual Agent, all the bots that you can create. And working with them, of course, you have a lot of data connector. You have the possibility to work with AI, and you have, oh, I need to update this slide because it's not anymore common data service, but it is Dataverse storage. Okay, so regarding the integration and the connectivity, when you are working with Power Automate, you have more than, and this slide is like a whole, so it's more than that, 400 different connectors that are available for you in the Power Automate platform. In the Power BI platform, you also have Automate. They are a little less wide, but there are also dozens and hundreds of them. For the flow in the Power Automate, you have 5 types of flow. So you can schedule a flow. You can have what we call instant flow or manual flow, meaning that you will trigger them by an action on your own. Usually can be a button, a physical button, or your phone or something else. You have the automated flow as well that are triggered by a particular event. You have the business process flow that are working with CRM like Dynamics, of course. And you have the last but not least UI flow that are also called RPA, like robotics, that allows you to record your action and to create script for action. This is very useful for legacy system, for instance. In Power BI, we have a lot of stuff, actually. And we have all the data source that we are working with. We have all the possibility to do our authoring. I will not go through all the stuff here. The only thing I wanted to show for people that are familiar with the Power BI platform is that the Power Platform itself is a little small part here, but that doesn't mean it's not important. Okay. So today we will have a look at what it is possible between Power Automate here and Power BI itself. When you talk about Power BI, of course, you talk about data set because we are working with data. So what can be possible between Power Automate and Power BI for the data set? Actually, when you think about a data source, of course, Power Automate is able to interact with with the data source both ways. So is able to read and to write to a data source, even with an on-premise data source. But that means that you will need premium for Power Automate. And Power BI is also able to interact with a data source, but usually It is to read the data because you will build a data set that you will use into your report. So this is not a direct interaction between Power Automate and Power BI. You can still directly write data. There is an action called write data into dataset for Power BI, but that means that your dataset in Power BI is a special one. It is what we call a streaming dataset. And in this case, you will have scenario where you will be able to create dashboards that are alive, and you will see a curve growing, for instance, because Power Automate is sending data into the dataset. Also, you can use Power Automate to trigger the refresh of a dataset. So this seems really interesting, but it will not trespass the limits that you have to refresh your dataset. So in Power BI, depending on the licensing model you are on, the refresh of the dataset is limited to 8 times a day or 48 times a day if you are premium. So you can trigger a refresh from Power Automate with a special action, but you cannot override this limit. They are very smart for that, of course. So this is 2 actions that we can have. And like I mentioned before, you are able to, in both cases, Power Apps and, Power Automate and Power BI, you are able to work with the on-premise data gateway. It is absolutely the same gateway that you will be able to use to connect your on-premises data source like a SQL Server, like an Oracle database, like a SharePoint on-prem, you name it. So that's possible. The only difference is that Power Automate can do both direction, and Power BI will only read the data. So far, we do not have a very exciting scenario, but there is a new stuff that is a new action that is now coming, which is called the export, and which is better, my point of view, for business scenario. It will require premium on the Power BI side, which is much expensive than on the Power Automate side. So the scenario is the following. In Power Automate, you will be able to create a flow that will export a Power BI report to a file, meaning that you will create file from Power BI report. And then the most common scenario will be a subscription system, because once the files are created, you will be able to do whatever you want with it. And usually what people want is to make what we called before data-driven subscription, and they are not existing built-in into Power BI. So if you are already using the Power BI service, you know that there are subscription there, that you can subscribe to a report, or you can subscribe someone else to a report, but you can't have data-driven subscription, meaning you can pilot your subscription from a table or from a SharePoint list. This is possible with Power Automate, because you will be able to read a list with different email and different, report that people need to have and format that they need to have, and then to trigger your flow, to schedule it, and to send the files to the people. This is something that a lot of my customers are asking for. So this is very nice. The only issue is that you need to be on premium in Power BI, which is not always the case.
Isabelle, I have a question about that.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't there this new premium option per user?
That's a good one. That's a good question. Sorry, I was clicking too fast. So sadly, no. I was hoping for, but your workspace needs to be on capacity like P1. And if you are using a per user premium license, that's not enough.
Okay.
So it's not working. I
Too
know.
bad.
Too bad. We need to do something about that, but we already had put pressure to have the per user, but yeah, I know. I'm sad too. Okay. So another possibility that you have, and I will show you that after in one demo because I only have an alpha today. So another scenario is Power Automate and the Power BI data alert. So in this case, it's Power BI that will trigger something on Power Automate by using the mechanism called data alert. So when you are creating a dashboard in Power BI, you can have KPI in the dashboard, not in a report, that can trigger or fire an alert. So by default, the action is to send a notification or to send an email to a specific address, but you can also ask to trigger a flow from that, meaning that after that, sky is the limit, because in Power Automate, you can do everything, almost everything that you want. So if you want to trigger an alert on the level of the coffee machine by a live dashboard and then trigger Power Automate to send an order for coffee, that's possible. I'm not sure it will be the scenario that you will choose, but that's a possibility as well.
At least that's one of the most important scenarios that I can think of.
Yeah, I know. Coffee is so important.
Yes.
Then another action, and this one, yes, it's an odd one. It's the fact that in the action, you can have Power Query. So just to remind you, Power Query, it's the ETL part that you have in Power BI and that you have also in DataFlow. And if you are using DataFlow inside of your Power Platform with Power Apps or Power Automate, you are maybe familiar with that. So Power Query allows you to connect to data source and then to clean up, transform, and prepare your data. And so there is an action in Power Automate that allows you to do so. That's nice. So that's very exciting. It appears a few years ago and it never evolved. It's still in preview and it only allows you to go to Azure SQL database, which is really, really a limitation, of course, because the power of Power Query is to go to a lot of data source. So this action still exists, but it is not evolving anymore. So my opinion is that it's not evolving because it's not, it is now all about data flow. So they don't want you to invest in that part, but they rather prefer that in the Power Platform, you use the data flow and Dataverse to do stuff. So, but it's still a little too bad because, of course, it gives inside of the Power Automate a lot of scenario with more flexibility than DataFlow that will only bring your data into Dataverse. You see, it's a little different. There, you can manipulate your data and in your Power Automate flow, do whatever you want with. It's also limited because you can't pass dynamic properties into it. And so it's a little static so far. So don't put too much hope in that one, to be honest. So maybe it's time to have a look for the first action I have mentioned before we move to the rest of it. So I will just go here. And of course, I have prepared my screen and I hope it will be okay. So the first thing I wanted to show you, this dashboard, it's an old one, so sorry for the look of it. It's the travel expense dashboard. You see, it's from another era. Who is traveling anymore? No one, I guess. This is the expense that my partner in crime and myself, we are doing when we are traveling for a company. The data are fixed, just to say, because we are not spending that much in Las Vegas, sadly. So we have here KPI with the total expense of the company, and then we have a dashboard with the approbation of the expenses, and we can have the analysis of this approbation as well. Because I have the total of my expense here in a tiles in my dashboard, I can go to the alert, like here, manage alerts. And you see here, so I have an alert for a specific amount, which is $30,000. And if you go here, you have a small line, use Microsoft Automate to trigger additional action. And when you do that, it will directly propose you to use this template in your Automate, and you will be able to create your flow from the data alert in Power BI. I will let this one run. And I will go to my other screen to show you the subscription I was talking before. Okay. So I hope everyone is already familiar with the Power Automate interface, hopefully. So when you create a flow, of course, the first thing that you will do is to pick up a trigger. In this case, you will see that I have picked a manual trigger. But of course, it will normally be a schedule one. And the action that I am using here is the export to file for Power BI. And this action is quite rich. I will open it so you can see that it's still lagging. Okay. So when you do so, when you pick up export to file for Power BI reports, because it is a premium option, you are able to pick between the action export to file for Power BI report, but also for paginated report if you are using paginated report. Then you will need to choose a workspace. The best thing is that it will show you all the spaces, all the workspaces, and it will not make an error until you run the flow if the workspace is not premium. So you need to be sure that the workspace is on a capacity. Then you will be able to pick up a report, to choose the format. So all the usual formats are here: PDF, PowerPoint, PNG, if you want. You can also define the local settings if you want the hidden page of the report, if you are using bookmark on your report, so you can provide a very specific context. Also, you can apply the filters that you want and the page and so on and so on. So the action is super rich. And the good news is that, of course, if here I had another action, I was a little lazy to do my demo, but a richer demo would have been I connect to a SharePoint list with all my subscribers or to a table in the database, and then I have all the property for every person I want to send the report. And then I will use a for each and export the file, and it will be very nice in that case. And so you can create a data-driven subscription. So there is a lot of possibility here. And at the end, of course, what interests me is to send an email. And in the email, what I will do in the advanced option here, I am using dynamic properties to retrieve the file content from my export. And when I do that, I will receive this, and I have prepared the result. So I will receive an email here with an attachment, and in the attachment, I will have my report as well. Hop. No. The PDF is opening, but I'm using an editor, so it's always a little longer to open it.
While it's opening, I have a question again.
Yeah.
So does this report PDF generator action take care of those scrolling bar things? If I have like a table that has a scroll bars in the report, does it print out the whole table, or does it leave the scroll bars there and part of the table is hidden?
That's a good question. Normally it takes care of some, if I remember well, but if you really want to have a pixel perfect result, the best thing to do is to create a paginated report, because paginated report, they are really really meant to be pixel perfect. So if your goal is to do so, it can be interesting to create a paginated report. Okay, that's wonderful. Now he's proposing to up. I should have opened it for, but it will come. Yep. So as you can see, this is, so I only have exported a usage metric report because I didn't want to make any indiscretion about the report, but you see that my report is here. So this is one of the action I really like. But of course, it's a bit of a most expensive one because you need a Power BI Premium. Another action I was mentioning was the Power Query here. So you can use a Power Query action if you want. But the only thing is that you will need to connect to Azure SQL database. This action is still in preview, and it will not give you all the power that you can have in DataFlow. So at this point, we can be a little frustrated, because if I am listing the action that I have is, okay, the refresh of a data set, it's the alert that is triggering something, is the export to file, but I need premium, and the Power Query, which seems to be a dead end. So far I was not happy, and I was thinking, okay, what can I do more with Power Automate? And luckily, the answer comes to me because in Power BI, we have a Power BI REST API. Aha, that's interesting. Because in Power Automate, when you have a REST API, you can create your custom connector. So the idea is the following. I have my Power BI REST API with dozens and hundreds of methods, actually, who allows me to do a lot of stuff. And I'm doing that in PowerShell, but PowerShell, okay. Is it possible to do something with Power Automate? Yes, you can, because you can easily create a custom connector without writing any code. So it's an interesting option. And after that, you will be able, and again, this is a little not up to date, because I think that we are now with more than 300 methods, but you will be able to manipulate all the action that you can find in the REST API. And by action, I mean, okay, you can get all the data and do an inventory if you want, but you can also make stuff and create stuff and copy stuff. So that's really interesting. Is it complicated to do? No, because like I said, I'm a lazy person. So to create your Power BI custom connector, I didn't want to write all the description of it, and I'm a lucky person because on GitHub you can find the Swagger file of the Power BI REST API. The link is in the slide, so I don't know if you will share the slide. Otherwise, I can publish them. That's not a problem, and I will show you now in the demo how to do so. And hopefully my screen will not be too slow for that. So when you want to create a connector in Power Automate, sorry, don't go to connector because it's not happening there. So yes, I know it's a little odd, but actually there is no possibility here to work with custom connector. You need to go to data. And when you are in data,
Isabelle, only a couple of minutes left.
I know. But I want to show you that because it's interesting. Okay. Oh. No, no, please. Okay. What I will do, I will go directly to a flow that I have created with my connector here. And in the meantime, I will go back here to data. Why I'm not in data? Okay. That's terrible. I'm really sorry because it is the first time I have such a slow interaction. So I will just show you here in my action. If I go to custom here, I have the custom connector that I have created. And you see that I have a lot of possibility, like delete specified dataset from my workspace or from the specified workspace and so on and so on. In this one, what I am doing is to create a new workspace, and it works. So the scenario here, of course, is to work with Power Apps and to make a on-demand service for people to create workspace. That's totally possible. If you really want to see the demo, because I'm afraid we will be very short in time. Yes, here, custom connector. Maybe I will be able to show you that. I have it published on YouTube as well, so I can give you the link for that.
Maybe you can share that link and also the link to the Swagger file.
Yes.
And we can then push them forward on this Teams chat, for example.
Absolutely. So I will just go back to my slide to just finish and conclude in this way. So you need to use the REST API Swagger file. It will retrieve all the actions that are defined on it, and you will use it very easily in your Power Automate flow. The only thing that is important is that you will need, of course, to register to register it in your Azure Active Directory. So, but I can send you, so I have put a link here to the Swagger file, and I can give you other link for that. So, Power Automate and DataFlow, there is no direct link here with Power BI. The only thing is that both are sharing the technology of DataFlow, which is Power Query Online, and both are storing data. The only difference is that Power BI is analytics and it's stored in a data lake, and Power Automate is giving you, data flows in the Power Platform is giving you the choice. If you are choosing analytics, it is in the lake. Otherwise, it is in Dataverse as well. Just to conclude, I put all together the slide here with all the interaction. And if you need to remember one thing from the interaction between Power Automate and Power BI is that there is not that much built in. There are some very interesting interaction, like the subscription of under export to file, but that needs premium. So the key for you to unlock the capacity between Power Automate and Power BI is to create your custom connector and to use the REST API of Power BI. That's the message I wanted to give you today. Thank you.